Hi everyone, it's PJ from Mom on the Run. Hey, as I've been discussing the Danny Masterson trial, Bijou Phillips, and everything that's been going on, lo and behold, here it is. It's Tuesday. It's September 19th, and about noon our time, the story broke that Bijou Phillips has officially filed for divorce from Danny Masterson. I have to tell you, wasn't terribly shocked. I do think that at the beginning, she probably did, want to stay with them. Now, the playing devil's advocate here, you could also say that this is a smart way for herself to be protected. Because as I have heard on leaving Science or growing up in Scientology, as I've heard from Aaron, more women have come forward. Not surprising, but nevertheless, more women have come forward. So I believe he thought the count was now up to either 10 or 11 women that have come forward. So whether that was the 1-2 punch that finally helped to push Bijou into filing, I don't know. We won't know until she decides to speak out further. But yeah, that's kind of what's been happening as of late. Now, I've really been struggling. I've been wanting to go down the Bijou rabbit hole that is this whole thing, okay? So I went down that rabbit hole, and boy, was I shocked at what I discovered. Now, there is a lot of talk about different problematic behavior that she had, and I have to say, I'm so grateful cell phones weren't being used to record every living moment of your life when I was in my 20s. All right. And please forgive me. I have a little four-legged friend here who's decided that she now wants to come and play because I'm busy. All day long, she's ignored me. The moment I get on to do this and talk to you, I am the most important person to come mess with now. So forgive me. But in any event, I went and found there was this Reddit page, and this person broke it all down, but they did a synopsis. I think that's how you say it. They did a little snippet of an interview that she had done with Index magazine back in 2000. So I read that. It was deeply disturbing. And I said, more must be revealed. And so I dug a little deeper. And then I said to myself, I've got to read the whole entire article because that little snippet is not enough, right? So me being the curious kitty that I am, I dug a little deeper and I found this interview. So I thought, let's go through and I will read it to you. All right. And some of this, there's a portion of this interview I am not going to read part of, and I'll go into more detail when I get there as to the reason why. All right. And I want to be very upfront because I don't like it when I watch other YouTubers and you find out that they've only told you part of it. All right. The dirt, the devil is always in the details, people. Dig, dig, dig. Okay. So it's Bijou Phillips is the title. And it has the year 2000 next to it. All right. And this was written by someone who was, and may still be, a friend of hers. The gentleman's name is Bruce LaBruce. All right. And he is actually still active. I saw he does movies and various things in the LGBTQ community. And hopefully I said that correctly. All right. So bear with me. Let's dig in, shall we? I'll do the reading for you so you don't have to. And that also means I need to get my glasses on because, well, I'm getting older and I need them. All right. So some of this is kind of flowery. I'll breeze past that because we want to get to the meats and the potatoes, but I also want to read the whole thing so you can kind of get the gist of the conversation, right? I think it's always important that we know under what context something is being said, because that's what then lays the groundwork for an understanding, right? Okay. So, for anyone with even a casual relationship with the delicious Page Six, the New York Post gossip column, Bijou should already be somewhat of a household word. In fact, Bijou Phillips, who will turn 20 in the year 2000, has been the venerable holy terror of Page Six for the past 4 or 5 years now. And yeah, that was true. She's today's Tuesday, the new Drew, a wild child through fate and circumstances, has somehow allowed to partake of New York's nebulous nightlife at an age traditionally more suited to playing with dolls. That is of the non psychedelic variety. I'm sorry, but really. Okay. Bijou is one of three famous daughters from different mothers of Papa John Phillips. Of the John Phillips of the 60s group, the Mamas and the Papas. The other two being Mackenzie of American Graffiti and One Day at a Time, and China, formerly of the pop band Wilson Phillips, and currently a Baldwin wife. And for those who don't know, China Phillips is married to Billy Baldwin, who is part of the Baldwin brothers. So that's what he's alluding to. The senior Phillips annoyingly cocksure autobiography. Bear with me. I tried to do my tongue twisters before I started too. Okay. Papa John chronicles the life of a selfish and driven man whose bipolar extremes, fueled by a self-destructive indulgence in sex and drugs, left a trail of broken lives in his wake. And boy, isn't that the truth. Indeed, Bijou may have had her first drug experience before she was born. It was with a little trepidation that I first met young Bijou through a mutual friend, the lovely redheaded recording star, Espresso, at a sushi restaurant in Toronto. I'd already heard the rumors and was anticipating a Tasmanian she-devil who might just as soon bite my hand as shake it. Greeting me, instead, was a charming girl with porcelain skin, cutie pie doll lips, and the particularly disconcerting quality of someone 19 going on 35. Well, that, my friends, is an awful lot of people who grew up in Southern California. Aside from mounting and almost disrobing one of our newbie female dinner companions and shoving her tongue down her throat, which sent our server scurrying nervously from the private room, I found her company quite civilized. So let me back up and read that again, okay? Because I did kind of miss that. I'm like, what? Okay. Let me start over there. Okay. Let me back up to that one. Aside from mounting and almost disrobing one of our nubile female dinner companions and shoving her tongue down her throat, which sent our server scurrying nervously from the private room. And then he says, I found her company quite civilized. She's a forthright and engaging young lady with a fondness for dirty rapping and spontaneous balderdaring. I think that's a nicer way of saying a ballbuster. I hope to see her again. Okay. Now, also, I would hope it would go without saying, but if you have little children or young heirs, I'm going to go through and obviously change some names because YouTube does not allow those words. But nevertheless, given some of the content here, you may want to obviously enjoy this when younger ears are not around. Okay, so now I've only got 2 more paragraphs to go, folks, and we're going to get right into it. So bear with me, because these still matter too. A few months later, when Bijou was back in Toronto shooting a movie called Tart, we showed up in a cab one evening under the influence of some harmless club drug. I personally take issue with that. Club drugs were not harmless, but okay, that's what they thought back then. This was still the era of raves, people. For 15 minutes, I sat transfixed as she spoke softly into her flashing pink cell phone, reciting a passionate, epic love poem to her curtain bow, then dismantled it as piffle. She stretched out her long legs, nestled cat-like in the back seat, as if in a perpetual state of limousine. I gazed in wonder at a girl who seemed to have the world at her feet. Well, folks, all that glitters is not gold. Moving on. Bijou will soon appear in, and it talks about a film she was in, James Two Packs of Black and White. Excuse me, two box. I don't think I said that name right, but we get the gist. You get the gist. Okay. The movie's a mess. You can't say that this author, excuse me too, now my nose has decided it's going to run too. You can't say that this author isn't honest. All right. The movie's a mess, but Bijou sparkles. She's also working on a follow-up to her debut album. I swear before I get through this, I will not be so tongue-tied. Bear with me. She's also working on a follow-up to the debut album. Why can't I say that today? Debut album. I'd Rather Eat Glass, which was released last year. And this month, she graces the cover of Playboy. Wow, lovely. Because seriously, that was like the coming of age. So gross. But they used to have a list of girls who were going to be 18 in the next year. And they would go after them and start like, ugh. Anyways, moving on. It seemed appropriate to bring along a recent issue of Celebrity Sleuth, a salacious magazine that digs up and reprints obscure or previously suppressed pictures of famous females in the nude. Ugh. 90s, what can you say? So disgusting. Okay, in which she ravishingly appears. Maybe that's how Danny first saw her. I'm quite excited as I've been collecting the sleuth's work for years. Bijou flips through it distractedly as we settle in. So now we're here at the point where we're going to do the interview. I have a co-host here today, folks. Lola. Lola. All right. Say hello. You're on film. You have to say hello to people. Say hi. Okay. Now you sit tight while I read the interview, okay? And please, no kisses. All right. So let's start. And so I'll say Bruce, and then I'll say Bijou, or I'll say B, and then I'll say Bijou, just for a matter of reference. So Bruce, I'm so tired. Can you just interview yourself? Bijou, no. Bruce, okay, so tell me about your Playboy shoot. She says, they contacted me, we went out to dinner, I had these conditions, and we figured everything out. Bruce says, what were your conditions? She says, Bijou answers, that Ellen von Unruth would shoot it, I think I said her name right, would shoot it, and then I could have control over the article and the pictures, pick where the shoot would be, what happened in the shoot, the clothing. Bruce says, or lack thereof. And Bijou says, and that it's a cover. Bruce says, how did did Hef come in during the shoot in his bathrobe? And she answers, yeah, he did. We did some pictures together. That was fun. Bruce says, what about your family? Didn't you consult with them about Playboy? Yeah, they said, great. Just make sure you have control. I guess that was good advice, right? And then Bruce says, I guess there's nothing shocking about it anymore. And she responds, it's just tease for bosom, the slang word for bosom. No big deal. And I will tell you, she has some colorful language, just like me, but thanks to YouTube, we won't say that. Okay. I'm gonna have a problem with this next one, but I'm gonna attempt here. Did they ask you for split an animal that makes dams? So gross. I mean, I'm sorry, but this was back in 2000, and even then, so inappropriate, but hey, they're friends. This is how people talked, I guess. So Bijou responds, no, with the exclamation point. Ellen, listen to this, folks. Ellen has tons of those of me from photographing me years ago. But she would never release them. She's taken some nutty pictures of me, but we're friends, so she wouldn't publish any of them. So she's about to turn 20 in 2000. And she says she has tons of those of me from photographing me years ago. So that would mean she was a minor when this person, Ellen Von Unworth, took the photos. That's not creepy. No, not at all. Let's move on, shall we? Bruce, now I wanted to ask you, having read The Celebrity Sleuth, my main source of information about those Calvin Klein ads, Bijou responds, the kitty he ads, you know, that mustache that Tom from Vanderpump's Rules been rocking. Yeah, you get what she was saying. Bruce says, I've forgotten you were in these. And you know what? So did I. Bijou says, it was kind of scary because they had this guy. Bruce says, Stephen Mazel? Bijou says, no, Stephen directed it. But there was this P guy. Again, like the mustache that a certain Tom the cheater was rocking last year in Vanderpump Rules. Bruce says, off camera, a real P guy? I think it was Ron Jeremy. Ron Jeremy, who's currently in jail. Ex-P star who was found guilty of raping multiple women. Yeah, that guy. Okay, moving on. Bijou. And he was wearing these pants, and it was just a nightmare. Bruce says to her, what do you mean, wearing these pants? Bijou answers, these weird leather pants. And he had a cowboy hat on, and he was just sitting there. Bruce. So he looked all leathery, like a leather daddy. And for those that don't know, that's a certain type of person in the gay community. It's a certain type of proclivity that people look for in certain communities. All right. Bijou. Yeah, and he was asking these questions like in a creepy voice. What do you like about your Calvin Klein jeans? How do they make you feel? Bruce says, creepy. Bijou. And then he goes, what would it take to get your jeans off? I mean, I was like 14. I've been flown in from boarding school to do this. So I said, if I had to take a shower, if I had to go to the bathroom. When I read that, it made me so sick. Bruce, laughing. What would it take to get your jeans off? How sweet. But it felt creepy, right? Bijou. It felt dirty and wrong. Bruce, had you known Steve Meisel before? Hopefully I'm saying his name right, because he certainly deserves the credit here. Bijou, yeah, I'd done a bunch of shoots with them. Bruce, so did that make you feel more comfortable? Bijou, no, he's scary too. So can you imagine, I just want to pause here. You're 14, you're on a set, you have this P guy, Ron Jeremy, asking you at 14, what would it take for you to get it off of your Calvin Klein jeans? And this other man, Steve Maisel, however you say his name, and these two grown-ass adults sitting there asking a 14-year-old girl. Yeah, that's not predator. That's not predatory at all. No, that's just so fine. Hey, if I have a 14-year-old daughter, that's just a rite of passage, said no one ever. Okay? So let's go on. Bruce, laughing. It says here that the Justice Department investigated Calvin Klein's notorious Rec Room underwear ad campaign. It was Kitty P-ish. Bijou. I was 14. I was the only underage person there. I was the kitty. Bruce. Now, you were born on April Fool's Day. This is what I love about this guy. So here you are at a part where, why didn't you ask her more about that? No. He moves on now. Okay. Now Bruce moves on. Or it was edited to this point. Now, you were born on April Fool's Day, and in Papa John it says that your mother was on Acheron when she was pregnant with you, and that you were born premature and almost died. Okay, we're gonna say Acheron, HN. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Bijou answers, "Yeah, I'm a crack baby." Word. That's what's so disturbing too. I mean, when it gets to emotional parts, she very quickly just unplugs herself and just gives a casual answer and like, and it's interesting, you know, I come from a pretty dysfunctional situation myself, and that's one of the things you learn is that that disassociation. All right. But that's me putting my stuff on her. So anyways, Bruce says, that's not a very nice way to come into the world. You must carry some anger about that, or did you just let it go? And her response, I have so much anger. Bruce asks her then, does it freak you out that everybody knows all these details? The book's out of print, by the way. Bijou. At the time, it was huge. It came out in 1987. Bruce says, you were only 7. Bijou, the book's a bunch of lies. That's what my sister says. Bruce says, Mackenzie, because remember, she has China and she has Mackenzie, are both her sisters, right? Her half-sisters. Bijou, yeah, everything in it's all BS. Bruce, it says in the book that Mick Jagger and Jerry Hall were babysitting you once when your parents were going through HN withdrawal. And Mick and Jerry wouldn't give you back to them because they were too freaked up. And then your father tried to burn down his own house. Do you remember that? Bijou, no, I was only 3. My dad went to jail at the time, and no one would give my mom money. Bruce says, but she had lots of friends, rich celebrity friends. Bijou, my parents effed so many people over that no one would talk to either of them. Me and my mom ended up sleeping on the street. Bruce, you weren't sleeping on the street. Yeah, Bijou answers, yeah. We slept on the street a couple of nights in doorways, and we had to steal food. Bruce, I read that your dad was a real grifter. Bijou, at one point, he bought a drugstore so he wouldn't have to cop on the street anymore. Boy, that's something I need to look up. How the heck did that happen, right? Buy a drugstore. Whew. Bruce, and before he became famous, he was a mailman, but he was too lazy to deliver the mail, so he'd throw it away. Bijou says, he's just dumb. Bruce says, tell me about the new song you wrote, the one you were singing in the car on the way back from lunch. This is the part of the excerpt that was put into this article that I had come across and what started me finding this interview to begin with. All right. So, Bijou answers. The one about my dad, it sort of speaks for itself. Okay, sis, thank you. I've made this decision not to talk to the press about anything that's gone on in my life, but just to write music about it. They can interpret it themselves. Bruce, there seem to be some improprieties going on. You're talking about stuff in your music that's pretty heavy. Has anyone articulated it for you in the press? Bijou answers, and I quote, "No one has the balls to do it." Well, I may not have balls, but I do have some ovaries. Bruce says, "I'll do it." Bijou laughs. It's blatantly obvious. Bruce, the refrain in your song is, "He touched me wrong." How much more blatant can you get? Bijou answers, "I really want his balls busted, but I also want to be able to say it's just a song." And Bruce says, "It's not just a song." Bijou says, "It's just a song." Bruce, in Celebrity Sleuth, it says you have daddy tattooed on your butt. And there's a picture of it. Bijou answers, "Yeah." Bruce, it's funny how you can know a person and not know they have daddy tattooed on their butt. Bijou, that was during a time when I was a pretty sick puppy. I went and got it with my friend, David Blaine. I was 18. Bruce, did David Blaine also get daddy tattooed on his butt? Bijou, no. I should probably skip that, but okay. Bruce then asks, "Mommy?" She says, "He got some famous musician with a hat and a cane." And part of me's like, really, Bruce? Who cares? Moving on. So where did the two of you meet? We met at Bowery Bar when I was 14. Bowery Bar. So she met David Blaine in a bar when she was 14, people. That's crazy. Bruce, you came to New York when you were 14. Sleuth says that you pretended to have a HN habit so you could go to rehab to get away from your parents. Bijou answers, "Okay, here's what happened. I'd gotten hold of my dad's credit card when I was 14 and started buying all the stuff. I would have food delivered, furniture delivered, and I charged about 10 grand on the card. And no one did anything for 6 months. I hadn't tried HN because I've always been kind of scared of it. And then one day, a friend of mine was in town from LA and I hung out with him. He had some, let's say, sea dust. It's the nice plates you break out for Thanksgiving. And I inhaled some of it. I'd taken E earlier with this other friend. I was really into drugs at the time. And then I went over to another friend's hotel room, and his friend had just flown in from LA with a giant chunk of MTAR, which is another form of HN. Bruce, is that HN? Bijou, yeah. New York is powder, and here in LA, we smoke it. We smoked the HN for 3 days in the hotel room. I smoked a bunch of it, and I passed out for a day. Then I woke up, and we went to Central Park to ride on the carousel. So this is 14. 14, she's doing this and hanging out with major drug dealers, in my opinion. Bruce says, how sweet. Bruce, your idea of what's sweet is a little odd in my opinion. No judgment. Goodbye, Miss Lola. I need my space. You're making me hot, okay? Whew. That and reading this. Okay. Bijou. I would just throw up and keep going around and then throw up some more. I'd be like, I love life. And then I got really sick. When I went home, my phone was ringing and I answered it. Bijou, your father knows about the credit card and you need to apologize to him. I don't want this to ruin your relationship. Bruce says, who was that? Bijou answers, my stepmother. At that point, my dad didn't want me to be in New York anymore. He wanted me to go make money. Bruce says, he wanted you to work for a living at 14? Bijou says, yeah, because I said that once I did the interview cover, I would be a model. But to get out of the credit card thing, I decided to tell them I was a HN addict and that I'd use the card to buy furniture to sell for cash and other illegal activities. I knew it would work because every time my sister Mackenzie would do something bad, she would blame the drugs and then he'd send her to rehab. So I knew he'd send me. Bruce, so you really didn't need rehab? Bijou, no, I'd only done HN for 3 days. Bruce, this was a preemptive strike? Bijou, no, I didn't have an addictive personality at all. But my dad sent me to a doctor, and when he tested me, he found E and pot and alcohol and HN in my system. I pretended I didn't want to go to rehab. I was like, I don't want to go. Please, you don't understand. I need to leave. I need to get more. It was this whole act, she says. Bruce, so that was your acting debut? Bijou, it wasn't my debut. So they sent me to Sierra Tucson. Bruce, is that a posh rehab? She answers, yes. There were a bunch of rock stars when I went. Who? And she says, I'm not supposed to say. Now, I personally, the names are here. I'm not going to give the names. It doesn't matter, okay? It really doesn't. It doesn't matter who she was in there with. It really doesn't. It doesn't pertain to the story. Don't really want to go into that. So that part I'm going to go over, all right? Because like I said, it doesn't pertain to the juicy part of what I want to discuss here. All right. But he does ask her, were there drugs in rehab? Yeah, we would go to third step meetings and me and this other person would walk in singing, give me 3 steps, baby. It was so wrong. And then Bruce asked her, did you do drugs in rehab? No, but a lot of people did. Then I went back to New York and I was smoking pot and drinking within 2 weeks, but it never became a problem again. Well, you're 14 and you're still I'm sorry, but you all heard previously what her experience was, right? Okay, my friends, that's called denial. But hey, I am not an addiction medicine specialist. I'm just somebody who has been down that road. It sounded very familiar. Anyways, Bruce, Celebrity Sleuth once mentioned an urban myth about you cutting off some guy's little finger in a cigar cutter. So if you've dozed off, wake up, folks. Wake up. This is juicy. Bijou, look, some jerk was coming on to me all night, grabbing my, I'm going to say tush, while I was dancing with my friends. Bruce says, where was it? Bijou, at Spy. We were all smoking cigars and there was a cigar cutter. I dared my friends to put their fingers in it and they're like, yeah, Bijou, whatever, go away. And then I saw that jerk who was bothering me and I thought, oh, that guy, he'll do it. So I said, I dare you to stick your finger in there. And he goes, well, what does it do? I mean, if he's dumb enough to stick his finger in the friggin' cigar cutter in the first place, then he deserves a little nick. I gave him a little nick, and that was it. Bruce, and there was blood, no doubt. Bijou. He was bleeding for a minute. He grabbed some napkins and wrapped them around his finger. Then he came back over and asked for my phone number. He said I owed him dinner. Bruce, so how does that turn into an urban legend? Bijou, because a lot of people were there that night, like Leo and all those guys saw it. Everyone was like, she cut the friggin' finger off, man. The finger was on the floor. She picked it up. It was horrible. I don't know, dude. She's friggin' nuts. Friggin' nuts. Bruce laughing. That makes a better story than if you'd actually done it. Bijou, I was so young. I'd grown up with my family that was just a bunch of friggin' junkies. So I didn't have any manners or life skills. And Bruce says, you were a feral child? She answers, yeah, basically a little friggin' monster. Before you're going, okay. And then he asks, you were going to spy almost every night of the week. Did anyone ever say, hello, you're a 15-year-old youngster? How about you're a 15-year-old teenager? Her response, Bijou, no, they didn't care. I was getting pressed for the club. I was friends with the owners and the people who worked there. They would kick me out every now and then. They would punish me as if they were my parents when I did something bad, like when I cut that guy's finger. That's crazy, right? Bruce, but you were 15 and this guy was grabbing your tushy? Bijou, I was so nuts and crazy. I just didn't have respect for humans. I didn't have respect because I'd never been shown respect by my parents. I'd always been treated like an object, not like a human. In my old age, I've come to find that if you respect other people, you feel better about yourself. You have better relationships, and you can be a real person who can love and care and feel about someone else. I never had that. If that doesn't hit you right here and here, right? Bruce, it's amazing you've come to that conclusion so quickly, he says to her. Bijou, my sister had been a junkie until she was 30-something, and I just figured I had to get the BS out of the way by the time I was 20. Bruce laughing, that's a good plan. Bijou says, so far so good. Now, according to Celebrity Sleuth, I kind of struggled with this, but it's here, so I'm going to say it. According to Celebrity Sleuth, Evan Dano deflowered you. True or false? Can I just say, dude, why do you need to ask? It's not like you wanted to sleep with her. Anyways, Bijou, basically, yeah. We've been going out for about 2 weeks, and then I threw a barbell out a window and almost hit Anna Sue in the head. That's a famous fashion designer from Japan. I don't think I'm saying her last name correctly, but that's who that is, in case you're wondering who Anna Sue was. So, did you hear that? Bruce laughing. Almost, Bijou. And he had a heart attack, like freaked out and got so mad at me. You could have killed somebody. You can't just throw a ball from the a barbell from the 20th floor in New York City. You just can't do that. Then he calmed down and we were making out and he said, should we have sex? And I was like, I guess. Bruce asked, and you were how old? Bijou says, I was 16 or I was 15. Bruce says, you could have busted him. Bijou. And then he dumped me 4 days later. Bruce whispering, was it, he's asking about size. And her answer was no. It was over in about 5 seconds. I was like, that's it? That's it? Isn't it supposed to last longer? And he said, well, I was really excited. I said, yeah, the barbell must have really worked you up. And he dumped me 4 days later. Bruce, was he a jerk? Bijou answers, afterwards, yeah. At first he was like, God, I love you. I want to marry you. And I was just naive, but he was a rock star. And I had this daddy thing. And I thought I could make my dad jealous if I was dating a cute young rock star. And then he goes on to ask her about the Tart movie that she was filming in Toronto. I'm going to skip over some of that, although they talked a bit in this interview about Brad Renfro. And Brad Renfro actually, unfortunately, passed of an overdose on February 8th of 2008. And this, and Bruce was talking, Bruce LaBruce was talking about how he had taken a photo of something private to him. And after seeing that, he had passed, I didn't really want to go into that too much. But, I did want to read this one part. Bruce says, so now tell me a Brad story. What was he like to work with? Bijou, he has such a big ego that he makes it difficult to act with him. He'll either take it to 100 or he'll go way low. Bijou, or Bruce, way below the speed limit? Bijou, either way, he'll overact the scene and ruin the moment and just not let it be fresh for the camera, or he won't even give it to you. He'll just be a Richard about it. We'll just say it that way. He, and Dominic are interesting because you've all lived really hard before the age of 18, Bruce says. Bijou answers, yeah, it was the first time I've been in a situation where people were way more crazy than I was. I've calmed down now, and they haven't, so it was weird. Bruce, but Dominique is pretty level-headed. She was discovered when she was 13 or 14, and Brad was only 12. His stories are insane. He had effed up parents too. Bijou, yeah, he's a crack baby. Poor Brad. Just the way people say, yeah, he's a crack baby. Poor Brad. But that was her response. Then he says, tell me another good story. I'm going to get fired. And Bijou says, but you have so much already. Boy, did he ever. Do you think you got your musical genes from your father? And she answers, definitely. Bruce, it was pretty cool the other day when we had lunch at the Beverly Glen Diner, and one of his songs came on the radio, the one that goes, and no one's getting fat except for Mama Cass. Does that happen a lot? And she answers, I hear a Mama and Papa song when I'm out somewhere. It happens about once a week. And if you live in California, it happens about on the hour, every hour. If you're listening to the oldies music station, it's played over and over. Anyways, what's your favorite song of your dad's? Bijou singing, you're going to trip, stumble, and fall. That's my theme song. Bruce says to her, I don't think so, young lady. You're going nowhere but up with both feet on the ground. It appears that Index magazine stopped publishing in 2008. A lot of magazines went out. Most of them didn't make it past the 90s, quite frankly. So this article was done in 2000. And as you could see, there, before Danny, there was quite a history of predatory behavior that I'm going to call it predatory behavior. All right. When you're 14 or 15 and a dude who's in a rock band, is your first, and the way that went down, just my opinion, totally my opinion. I feel that it's really difficult to have good, healthy boundaries when none were shown to you. And it's my understanding that she was in foster care. She really enjoyed her foster parents and had a good experience with that. But you can see that, she was out of foster care at one point on her own. I can tell you, if I was 14, emancipated with a trust fund, a credit card with $10,000 limit, living in New York in the 90s, the way the club scene was, I would have probably been dead a decade ago. But it's really something when you look back on these stories and you start digging and you see all the people who've overdosed, all the people who've gotten into deeper trouble, and what's gone on with that. I kind of feel as though it's a two-pronged thing here, in my opinion, about this. I can also see where Bijou has developed some very manipulative behaviors, such as knowing that her older sister had always claimed it was a drug, so she got out of any and everything. So she knew if she did that, she'd have the same experience. That's smart, but it also does show a level of manipulation that is occurring, right? I also find it interesting that somebody who, has literally not had anyone looking out for her, that she's done as well as she has. But you can also see where that also sets this person up to always be searching for something to fill that missing piece. And that is where I feel a lot of people get into trouble when they're doing the spiritual searching. That's how a lot of people got mixed up in Scientology. And I want to just say this. You can practice any religion you want. If your religion is praying to the doorknob, more power to you if that's what makes you happy, all right? As long as you aren't hurting other people. But when you're having people give every last penny so you can sell them bogus, crazy, quote unquote, self-help things, and what you're really doing is gathering enough evidence to be able to blackmail them, I have a problem with that. I have a problem that, I've worked with 2 Scientologists now. I won't do it again. The last one, it was not a good situation. And I probably will be discussing that in more detail at a later date. There's going to be some interesting developments occurring, I'm sure. But I just want to say, I hope and pray that Bijou gets the much needed help that she needs. I had also, in going down this rabbit hole, discovered that Bijou Phillips is actually reunited with both China and Bijou. And it was an interview with CW on another show that she was doing. And it was in 2013. And when the interviewer said, I know that you, from having done that book and being on the Oprah Winfrey show, that you've been ostracized from your family. And she said, look, my family, we're avoiders. We don't want to have conflict. I went for years without my family. And I realized, this is my truth and that is their truth. And so we've agreed. I got the feeling it was like a don't ask, don't tell kind of thing. Very common in families that have had this level of dysfunction. And I think, quite frankly, it's a characteristic of all people who come from the Midwest. Okay, don't shoot me. Don't shoot me. I'm just saying, I've noticed there's this sort of like, we're nice, but we don't talk about other things like that. No. So anyways, I have rambled on now. It's 48 minutes. I wanted to get this article out to you. I'm going to be back later. I'm going to do another video here shortly, and we're going to delve a little deeper into the Ashton Kutcher debacle. And as my friend Aaron from Growing Up in Scientology has a wonderful video out about this, about why does Ashton hate Danny Masterson's victims. And I said, what? But then I watched it, dug a little deeper, and you're definitely going to want to know more about that. So I hope you liked the video. Please share. And I put some makeup on so I didn't scare you so much today. So anyways, hey, love and light. Please be kind. We don't know what everyone else is going through. And lordy me, have there been a lot of skeletons coming out of the closet. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about another individual who's recently had some controversy, Russell Brand. But I'm going to watch the documentary first before I say anything about it, because I think that I owe it to everyone else to do that. You should know what it is you're talking about, not just listen to other people and then form an opinion, right? Andrew Gold, if you have not found him on YouTube, you should. I just want to say, between AA Ron and Andrew Gold, if that's the only two people you watch on YouTube, plus Daily Dose of Donna and me, you'll be doing good. Anyways, thanks so much. And I hope you're all having a great night or day, whichever it may be. Take care.